Welcome back to my cozy corner here on the interweb on YouTube. My name is Brittany, and if you are a returning viewer, thank you for returning, and if you are new, let me do a little introduction. I am a Canadian in the far north of Canada, northwest to be exact, in a territory called the Yukon, and I live in Whitehorse, and this is my home that my husband and I built. Actually, my husband did. This is our second home that we've been in together, and we are house builders, and I'm a fiber enthusiast and love everything wool. Completely obsessed with it, as I'm sure you are if you are tuning in. So welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really glad that you would like to join me on a journey in the fiber arts. It is an overcast day today. I have a light on and I have a mic. I'm hoping that that will be sufficient enough to do this whole vlog thing. And I am knitting on some socks. I have been knitting on these socks since, goodness, summer last year. They were my driving socks and I am knitting them in Nutiden unspun yarn. I actually have half an object finished. Here it is. I have marled the yarns together to create this really lovely, fun fabric. So color blocking, striping, it's really wonderful. And I look forward to making the next sock. I'm just slow going at it because I've got other projects on the go as well, like I'm sure you do as well. I love to knit. I have to knit all the time. If my hands aren't doing something, I have to do something with my hands. It just feels awkward not doing something with my hands. So yes, last time I videoed, I was working on this hat right here. This is a finished object. It is the Jason's cashmere hat. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. And this was knit in a precious yarn that my friend Melissa spun. She has this Dorset fleece called Jack, and she has got a story for you. Melly Knits on Instagram has got a story for you of Jack the Dorset ram. He might be weather, I'm not sure. But anyways, she blended Dorset, Jack the ram, with some alpaca, and she spun it a 3-ply woolen. And this thing is light. It is so warm. My hands are right inside. Enjoying it. And there's just simple cables, some ribbing, and I love it. It's so cozy. So I was working on that the last time we chatted, and finished it, I think probably that night after filming. So I've been wearing it pretty much every day, just enjoying it. So yeah, we have that. Before I go into what I'm wearing, I will go on to something else that was finished first. So Anna from the Bluebird Box, she's a YouTuber as well. I'm often a test knitter for her. Gosh, I'm sorry for this lighting, by the way. I see that it's going dark and light. My phone seems to be adjusting to the contrast behind me and what's in front of me. So maybe I'll move a little slower for you. So anyways, Anna designed this vest here, and she designed it actually in my hand-dyed yarn. So this is a Canadian yarn from McAusland Woolen Mills that I sourced, and she knit hers in Mrs. Brown, a colorway I dyed, and this vest has this beautiful stitch pattern on the side, and it's knit bottom up. This is the back and this is the front. Here we go. And so my skeins have some flashing in it, but I actually really love it when I wear it. I will try to get some footage of me wearing the vest. All right, here we go. I did the waist shaping in size 5. And here's my details. Here's the chest. My row gauge was 1 stitch more, but it worked out fine. Falls nicely right at my true waist. But it was so fun to knit. We had lots of fun testing things to work out, and that's why if you test, you are prepared to frog, you are prepared to make adjustments, because you are helping a designer make the pattern the best they can make it. So I loved knitting this pattern. I used the recommended needle size. I can't remember what they are, forgive me. But Anna's actually releasing this pattern February 17th, I believe. And it is so enjoyable to knit. I'm trying to think of the techniques, some techniques. So they're set in sleeves. So you need to read all the instructions. There is garter, and there's no cabling. There is just basically 2 stitches that were, what is the word for that? Anyways, 2 stitches that change places, and the way that you knit them create this fun stitch pattern. I'm not really showing it very well. Anyways, there you go. Super fun. And knitting through the back loop of some stitches. And you can use a heavy DK, light worsted. I used my woolen spun yarn from McAusland, and this thing is really light, it's really warm. I just love it. So designed by a Canadian, knit by a Canadian, and used Canadian wool. So that is a finished object. So yes, this is called the Always Vest by Anna from the Bluebird box. I've got lots of FOs for you guys, so bear with me. This one was finished not last night, but the night before. This is Precious. You will probably see an appearance of a sweater that I knit last year of a fleece that I processed myself, and because I don't want to assume people know what I'm talking about, this is fleece. This is raw fiber, and this comes from a sheep called Nora, and Nora is a precious ewe I adore in Caroline, Alberta. The shepherdess Sierra is a good friend of mine, and I highly recommend you check out her flock. Her flock is bloodlines of Gotland, BFL, and some foundational breeds, which I understand are possibly Icelandic, Dorset, Finn, whatever breeds that are in Canada that help to bring in a bloodline from abroad. So Gotland originates from Sweden. So Gotland is a shiny fiber, and when you process it, when I card this, comb all the fibers, they're really sporadic and wild and silky, like mohair, shiny and sort of sporadic like mohair. So this is Nora, and when Nora's fleece was, when she had her first shearing, it was dark like this right here, a little bit lighter, and this gray right here is now Nora. So I hand spun. I don't think I was working on this the last time we spoke, but I was working on these 2 hand spuns. This is Nora, and then this is another from another sheep from the same flock called Torfall. I might be pronouncing it wrong. I might be saying the word wrong, but we believe Torfall means teardrop in Swedish. It could be wrong. So if you're from Sweden, please let me know what Torfall is or what teardrop is in Swedish. So these 2 sheep have different bloodlines. Nora is 70% Gotland and 30% Blueface Leicester. And Torfall is 61% Blueface Leicester and 39% Gotland. So there's some difference in them. And I'll hold it up close. And let's see, here we go. You can see that Torfall, the dark gray, is more fuzzier than Nora. Nora has more glow, shine to her. Torfall also had more stretch in the yarn, and Nora did not. Now, why this is so special is because I have actually got yarn that's being spun at a mill from the same flock. Not these sheep, but from the same flock. And I'm so excited about it, to be able to offer it in my online shop, that I needed to sample it. I needed to show you guys what these bloodlines of sheep do in fabric. And so I spun them really quick within a week. I knit it's called the 3-color cashmere cowl. It's upside down. And you are seeing different colors. Yes, you are. Now the white that you see and the brown, which is coming out a little red, it's kind of more of it's a warm tone brown. Those are silk mohair held double. So the 3-color cashmere cowl is designed by Joji Locatelli. And these fabrics work these yarns work really well together. It was a lot of fun to knit this pattern. It's very basic. You could self-draft something like this just based off of your gauge because it's a big tube. But I'm so incredibly proud of this yarn that I spun. I spun it worsted, meaning the fibers are pulled from a fiber supply and my hand smooths back down the yarn to grab more fiber, and I pull. And what that does is squeezes out the airspace in the yarn to highlight the properties of the wool, which is the silkiness and the shine to it. I love to spin woolen, which is where the fiber supply gets pulled backwards and then there's more airspace in between the fibers, so it feels warmer, it feels bouncier, airier. Just this is what is woolen. It's light in weight, squishier. There's more air that gets trapped, and when there's space for air to get trapped, the heat stays in. So this one I wanted to highlight the drape of the fabric. So that's why I spun it worsted. And there's little lace details up top here. There's a very simple lace pattern. And then down here is eyelets, and then you get striping. And so I modified the pattern a little bit. The striping was going between 2 different colors, but I alternated between the mohairs. And so you've got Torfall, mohair, Nora, mohair, Nora. So I just alternated. So yeah, that is my Nora Torfall cowl. 3-color cashmere cowl by Joji Locatelli. I sure hope I'm not missing details. Please ask in the comments below if I've left something out. I never really comment on needle size that I'm using or gauge. It's all relative and specific to the knitter. Now, sorry, I could talk about this all the time because I love hand spun yarn. I love creating my own yarn. I love taking a raw fleece and transforming it. There's just something so romantic about it. Wool. I mean, who else is like me? I'm sure many of you are out there having this romance with wool. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, super special. So Nora's next project was a cowl. Her first project with me was a sweater, and that will appear on the podcast one day. Now, what am I wearing? I am wearing another test knit by the Bluebird box. This is a fingering weight sweater. It's kind of wrinkled at the moment. This is a fingering weight sweater. I got gauge, and this is a lovely pattern by Anna, again, of the Bluebird box. So here we go. And what did I knit it in? Well, You can take a wild guess, those of you who know what this is. This is called Nutiden. It is an unspun yarn by, I believe they're called Mohair. I'm not Swedish. I don't speak Swedish. I doubt I said that correctly. I was a Patreon of theirs, and I have a collection of some of their unspun yarns. Very proud to have them in my stash because they are gorgeous to work with. It's light, it's airy, so warm, and I've paired it with, so I hand dyed some mohair and held the mohair double with one strand of this color here, which is kind of a, it's a green, but in some lighting it looks brown. So I held the mohair with this, and then the orange was a plate of, I believe it's called Eldsjal. I held it double, and then the light gray is actually multicolored. There's hues of pink and purple, yellows, like pretty vibrant colors, but it's mixed with natural shades of color. And I held that double as well. So the only thing that I held double that was different was the main color with a silk mohair. I could have held raw, this one double, but a customer had asked if I could dye some mohair, and I had already actually dyed some for this because I was thinking I would knit a different sweater. But when Anna did a test call for this, I had to say yes. I had to. So yes, this is coming out in March. So this sweater is called the Legacy Pullover. And why it's called the Legacy Pullover is because Anna knit it out of that Finn yarn, which actually comes from, I believe, the same city or somewhere where Anna used to live. So it's got a nice close connection to her. So it's called the Legacy because there's a legacy of where the wool came from to where she's currently living her life now. So yeah, those are my finished objects, guys. It's lovely. It's so cozy. I did the waist shaping, so it goes in, and I'm so glad I did the waist shaping because it falls really nice. This is short row shaping as well, so it goes in the, covers your tushy. And then there's color work on the sleeves. The sleeves were really fun to knit. You do a ribbing and then a rolled hem. You know, when you're on camera, you can't think of the correct words. It's just lovely. I love this sweater so much. And I believe that's it for finished objects. And I do have some works in progress. How about we go with the Cozy Up Knits Mkal? Okay, so if you are knitting the Cozy Up Knits Mkal, look away if you are not on the last clue. So they have designed a stole. So this is basically a scarf, but you can drape it over your body if you need be. So this is the last clue. So there is this whole other section from clue 1 through 4, I believe it was, 1 through 4? Nope, 1 through 3. And I've got no needles on the end, so I can't really stretch it out. So I'm using some yarn from Les Belles Bouclettes. That's this beautiful copper color. Les Belles Bouclettes are in Canada. I always forget, but anyways, I'll link them below. And I'm also using some leftover from a half and half wrap that I used. So these two colors here, they look fairly similar, but they're not. They were left over from a half and half wrap. They are the Purl Soho linen quill. So Peruvian Highland, alpaca, and flax. And then the white is a wool mohair blend from Twin Oaks Farm, also in Canada. And these are the clues. These are the sections. Oh, don't lose stitches. So there's some striping, which is pretty classic cozy up knits to play with color, because they love to work with minis. I'm not really showing this off very great, but anyways, here we are. It's pretty long. And so what we did with clue 1 through 3 was knit to here. And then they threw us a curveball and said, cast on another 112 stitches. And we did this lace panel here. You can kind of see like arches. I know, awful lighting. Maybe I should refilm. Into, they called these eyeball stitches. Come on, ladies. Anyways, I've been weaving my ends as I go, but I haven't done so much on this part. So anyways, this is the other end of the stole, and on the final section of clue 5, we bring two ends together. So your stole goes off this way, and then there's a section that's not knit. So there's a wedge, and we're gonna knit back and forth. And it's sort of like a choose your own adventure. So you'll have to cast on some stitches or knit the first few stitches together, and as you go back and forth, you can add in your contrasting colors however which way you want. So this has been fun to work on. I have not given myself major pressure to finish it, but when I've wanted to not work on something like with unspun, which is a little slower, or I don't know, if I wasn't feeling anything else, I worked on this. And so I'm hoping to be able to finish this tonight. We shall see. Again, no pressure, but I always love to get things off my needles so I can start focusing on some other things. I showed you this sock already that I'm knitting with unspun. This is just a plain vanilla. Actually, it's not quite a plain vanilla sock. I'm doing every few rows. I'm doing like knit 3, purl 2, knit 3, purl 2. Knit a few rows, alternate where you put your knits and purls so that you get this little checkered effect. So it's just marling, toe up, and they are so cozy. I'm going to use these for just like house socks. Yeah, I cast on 64 stitches. I don't know what happened, but after I got to the heel, I ended up with 68 stitches, but that's okay. Actually, trying it on, it felt pretty decent around the leg because the fabric is so much tighter. It's with holding the unspun double. I have a bit of a tighter gauge. Up here, the unspun got a little thin, and so I've got a minor puckering, but I think with some blocking, it'll sort itself out. A 2x2 rib at the top, and a fish lips kiss heel. Here. So it was probably actually a good thing that I ended up with more stitches in the cuff, in the leg. I need to actually go and count how many stitches are in the heel just to be sure, so I can make the second sock the same. So yeah, I did have to frog a sock. I showed you last time. I did not even clue into the fact that I was knitting the Hebridean wool on 2mm needles. Didn't even try it on, and I did a fish lips kiss heel because I enjoy making them. Heel flap and gusset are okay. I want something that's mindless and that I can just do off the top of my head. Anyways, I tried the sock on. It didn't fit. I could frog back to part of the foot and then put in a heel flap and gusset, which I might do. Probably will, but last year I knit so many socks, and this year I'm not really into socks. I'm into the hats, I'm into the shawls and the sweaters. It's just a emotion you go through. I wanted to, knit whatever your heart desires, whatever your hands really fancy, right? And the other thing I have on my needles, because I do have a stash of Nutiden, is a shawl. This is the Homesated Shawl by Melody Hoffman, and I'm using Nutiden held double. This is Glimt. It is white with flecks of, flecks of like peach, yellow, then there's the natural sheep color of black, gray, and then the white. This is actually quite a nice coarse yarn. And when you knit it up, it does get softer because the fibers are able to get twisted into the fabric, and as you wear your wool that's more toothy, what's called the halo. Let's see. Do you see all those little bits of fiber sticking up right there? They just work their way into the fabric. And that's how wool gets softer. When people say, oh, just wash it, just wear it, it gets softer. That is how it gets softer. Those fibers work their way in. I guess I should show you this. All right, so Melody Hoffman's Homesated Shawl, knit from point to, so it's growing this way. It's gonna be so a straight line here, and then it grows out that way. We've got some eyelet rose and this really funky little braid. I don't even remember what it's called, but the Homesated Shawl. It reminds me a lot of a shawl that I test knit for Autumn Poppy Designs called the Laurel Shawl, with the garter stitches and the breakup of eyelet rose and certain stitch patterns. So I cannot wait to wear this. It is going to be so warm, and the fabric is turning out really beautiful. You can see those like colorful little pockets, slight, like ever so slight variegation in the natural way that it's just knitting up. So yeah, those are my works in progress. Not a ton. I would like to cast on something, probably another sweater. I love to have a sweater on the go. But I've been doing a lot of spinning. So the last time we spoke, I showed you some bobbins of some fleeces I've been processing. So I've mentioned Crocus Country Shepherdess, I think, or at least linked them. I might not have. Maybe this time I will. So Sierra is in Caroline, Alberta, and she has a flock of sheep. Yes, this is coming out in March. So this sweater is called the Legacy Pullover. So yeah, those are my finished objects, guys. It's lovely. It's so cozy. I did the waist shaping, so it goes in, and I'm so glad I did the waist shaping because it falls really nice. This is short row shaping as well, so it goes in the covers your tushy. And then there's color work on the sleeves. The sleeves were really fun to knit. You do a ribbing and then a rolled hem. You know, when you're on camera, you can't think of the correct words. It's just lovely. I love this sweater so much. And I believe that's it for finished objects. And I do have some works in progress. How about we go with the Cozy Up Knits Mkal? Okay, so if you are knitting the Cozy Up Knits Mkal, look away if you are not on the last clue. So they have designed a stole. So this is basically a scarf, but you can drape it over your body if you need be. So this is the last clue. So there is this whole other section from clue 1 through 4, I believe it was, 1 through 4? Nope, 1 through 3. And I've got no needles on the end, so I can't really stretch it out. So I'm using some yarn from Les Belles Bouclettes. That's this beautiful copper color. Les Belles Bouclettes are in Canada. I always forget, but anyways, I'll link them below. And I'm also using some leftover from a half and half wrap that I used. So these two colors here, they look fairly similar, but they're not. They were left over from a half and half wrap. They are the Purl Soho linen quill. So Peruvian Highland, alpaca, and flax. And then the white is a wool mohair blend from Twin Oaks Farm, also in Canada. And these are the clues. These are the sections. Oh, I don't want to lose stitches. So there's some striping, which is pretty classic Cozy Up Knits to play with color, because they love to work with minis. I'm not really showing this off very great, but anyways, here we are. It's pretty long. And so what we did with clue 1 through 3 was knit to here. And then they threw us a curveball and said, cast on another 112 stitches. And we did this lace panel here. You can kind of see like arches. I know, awful lighting. Maybe I should refilm. Into, they called these eyeball stitches. Come on, ladies. Anyways, I've been weaving my ends as I go, but I haven't done so much on this part. So anyways, this is the other end of the stole, and on the final section of clue 5, we bring two ends together. So your stole goes off this way, and then there's a section that's not knit. So there's a wedge, and we're gonna knit back and forth. And it's sort of like a choose your own adventure. So you'll have to cast on some stitches or knit the first few stitches together, and as you go back and forth, you can add in your contrasting colors however which way you want. So this has been fun to work on. I have not given myself major pressure to finish it, but I'm hoping to be able to finish this tonight. We shall see. Again, no pressure, but I always love to get things off my needles so I can start focusing on some other things. The other thing I have on my needles, because I do have a stash of Nutiden, is a shawl. This is the Homesated Shawl by Melody Hoffman, and I'm using Nutiden Held Double. This is Glimt. It is white with flecks of, flecks of like peach, yellow, then there's the natural sheep color of black, gray, and then the white. This is actually quite a nice coarse yarn, and when you knit it up, it does get softer because the fibers are able to get twisted into the fabric, and as you wear your wool that's more toothy, what's called the halo. Let's see. Do you see all those little bits of fiber sticking up right there? They just work their way into the fabric. And that's how wool gets softer. When people say, oh, just wash it, just wear it, it gets softer. That is how it gets softer. Those fibers work their way in. I guess I should show you this. All right, so Melody Hoffman's Homesated Shawl, knit from point 2. So it's growing this way. It's gonna be so a straight line here, and then it grows out that way. We've got some eyelet rows and this really funky little braid. I don't even remember what it's called, but the Homesated Shawl. It reminds me a lot of a shawl that I test knit for Autumn Poppy Designs called the Laurel Shawl, with the garter stitches and the breakup of eyelet rows and certain stitch patterns. So I cannot wait to wear this. It is going to be so warm, and the fabric is turning out really beautiful. You can see those like colorful little pockets, slight, like ever so slight variegation in the natural way that it's just knitting up. So yeah, those are my works in progress. Not a ton. I would like to cast on something, probably another sweater. I love to have a sweater on the go. But I've been doing a lot of spinning. So the last time we spoke, I showed you some bobbins of some fleeces I've been processing. So I've mentioned Crocus Country Shepherdess, I think, or at least linked them. I might not have. Maybe this time I will. So Sierra is in Caroline, Alberta, and she has a flock of sheep. 40 some sheep, maybe more. She lambs every year, and so she has some wethers that go to meat locker, because you have to do that to pay for having a flock. Sheep aren't free, they don't eat for free. And so she has the Tansy twins, which I mentioned before, which are I actually have the fleece to show you this time. They are a Gotland BFL bloodline that's crossed with a pure Icelandic sheep. I got their fleece, and I have some of their last year's fleece too. So I have separated the white from the gray and from the black, because these sheep came with these patches all over their bodies, and when I got the fleeces, you could clearly separate them up. So I did that. I separated them. So I blended it with mohair, a naturally dyed mohair from Fairy Tale Wool, and I blended it with some yellow dot hand dyed Wensleydale from Fiber Morphology, my friend, and Candace, she goes by on social medias. What else did I blend it with? Oh, and some silk, some nice caramel colored silk. So I will hold it up. Hopefully the lighting is okay. It's a bit warm, this lighting. So you can see some subtle barber pulling. I spun these 3-ply, so I filled 3 bobbins. Each bobbin had a total of 100 grams. So this could also be very nice in cabled hats, cabled cowl, cabled shawl. Oh my gosh. And you know, for something that has Icelandic bloodline and BFL, this is sure soft. I told you that there's a romance of wool in my life. Anyone else a yarn sniffer out there? Yeah, so I finished those. I did show them on the last vlog. So I finished those right away. And apart from the cowl that I really quickly spun and knit, I also received in the post a lovely package from a friend called Claire. She is from Cumbria in the UK, and she knows of a flock in her area that is a sheep breed called Herdwick. And Herdwick is a super cute sheep. Their face is like, what is it like? I don't know, it just looks teddy bearish. You want to hug those sheep, but you see their fleece and you're like, actually stay away from me. Because I didn't bring a sample up with me, but this Herdwick sheep has 2 coats. It has an undercoat, which is soft and downy, like that Icelandic. And then it has a outer coarser coat that is really, like, the fiber almost seems plastic. This is it right here. It's this like little hair. And when you look at the wool up close, you can see it as well. These little hairy bits. So when you first examine the fleece, you're like, this is gonna not be very nice in a garment or a hat or anything but carpet or like felted slippers. But my good friend Melissa, who I mentioned, who spun this yarn for this hat, she reminded me to blend it with some soft stuff. So that's what I did. I blended 30% Cotswold with 30% Manitoba alpaca that I received from my friend in Manitoba. 20% Herdwick, so I didn't use a ton of it, but enough to give texture and loft. I put 15% of Nora's Fall Fleece, that is this one. So that added some nice gray tones. The alpaca is the brown tones that you see. And then I put 15% of the Tansy twins in it, and I used the black. So together it creates this really lovely, warm, chunky yarn, and I called it Larry. So Melissa has this joke because she calls another one of her blends of fibers that she spins She calls it Einar, which is after her grandfather. So I blended mine somewhat like how she blends hers. And I named it after my grandpa, Larry. So I don't have plans for this yarn yet, but it was so fun. I have the recipe, or at least the fiber blend recipe, that I could recreate this. Because I have more of the alpaca, I have more of the tansy twins. So yeah, I think as you can tell now from episode 1 and episode 2, I have a passion for working with sheep fleece, and I have a passion for working with just raw wool as it is. I have a huge appreciation for the way that fiber works together, how you can blend it, and just what you can do with wool. It's magical. Animals are amazing creatures. So yeah, I could go on and on about fiber. So those are some spins that I was working on, and if you feel like you want to take off, please feel free. But I would love to educate some more about some wools. I do have some yarn on my wheels. So I have a Polywog Spinolution wheel, and I also have a electric eel wheel. Why do I have 2 wheels? This one doesn't spin super fine as this wheel spins. So it's nice to have a variety, just like people have stashes of spindles. So what am I spinning? This here, I'll start with it because it's beautiful and green. I love green. I am spinning a bat that I got from my friend Rose from Akara Yarns. We often do little trades. So I did a trade with her of a bat that I blended, and she did a trade with me. I don't have the card with me of what is in here, but I do remember some. There's some Gotland, and there's also some fiber that came over from Nutiden. So Nutiden or Mohair, they used to sell fiber as well that you can spin. So Rose dyed this green, which is like Emerald City green. She blended some stellina, so some sparkle. There might be some alpaca in here, I can't remember. But it is a cocktail of fiber. So you can do this. You can blend different sheep breeds to create these heathered yarns, which once plied, even or left as a single, create a really beautiful yarn. So it's much different than when you hand dye a variegated yarn. This hand spun is getting different characteristics from the different sheep breeds. It's getting a different characteristic from the colors that you add and the way that you spin it as well. So this is just me pre-drafting some of it so I can show some more of the colors that we're seeing. So yeah, that's really beautiful. I love it. It feels soft. It feels airy. You can still feel some of the sheep lanolin in it, which is really nice and pleasant when you're spinning with it. So that's what I'm spinning. I am just filling up the bobbin. I'm going to do a 2-ply, and it'll probably be about heavy DK, light worsted, maybe even Aran weight actually. I haven't actually checked. I'm just spinning it because sometimes when you're crafting, you just want to craft something that feels good. Now, this one is colorful, isn't it? This one is hand dyed by Crafty Jacks. Katrina is a color magician, and if you want a braid of fiber that is delicately hand dyed with acid dyes, shop her fiber. She is so delicate. When I separated the braid down into different sections, nothing was felled. Nothing was felted in any way. It was really, really nice and clean. And what I'm spinning is a 3-ply fractal. If you'd like to know more about what a 3-ply fractal is, you can simply Google it or look on YouTube. There's many videos. So I spun a third of the braid from end to end. So you know what a braid is. And I spun from one end to the other end, and it transitioned through multiple colors. One color you can't see right now is a golden yellow. You can kind of see it right in here. So this bobbin I filled up. I started yesterday, finished today. I really, really, really want to finish spinning this whole braid for tomorrow. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. So why am I spinning this? I'm spinning this to join in on the DRK Spin It to Knit It. Who's DRK? That's Andrea Mowry. She has a podcast as well, and she's hosting a knit along. You don't have to spin it to knit it, but you can also just knit it. And what the it is her everyday DRK everyday socks. A really lovely pattern with some ribbing, and there's lots of stretch, and so it's actually a really good pattern for hand spun yarn. So that's what I'm spinning that for. Yeah. So I'm not quite as long, or maybe I am as long as I was last time. I did have some questions in the comments about if I could talk about some yarns that I enjoy. I do get fairly sometimes overwhelmed with showing off acquisitions when I watch a podcast. So if that's not for you, I'll see you next time. But if you would like to stick around to find out some Canadian yarns that you can help support farmers with, then I'd love to show you some yarns from my stash. It's basically a gray palette, so just bear with me. So I will start with a farm out in Manitoba. Yes, southern Manitoba. So Ferme Fiola Ferme, they are a French couple in Manitoba, and they have multiple breeds on their farm. This one specifically comes from a Shetland cross with Rideau Arco. Rideau is a river, I believe, in Canada. And this actually came from a sheep called Dot. So I've had this in my stash for a while. It's white. I can't decide on if I want to knit something. There's actually, I think I have 5 of these skeins. And this is a beautiful yarn. It has a nice sheen. It is a 3-ply sport weight, 290 yards per 100 grams. And I believe it may have been spun at the Longway Homestead, and they are part of the Pembina fiber shed, which I'll link below what the fiber shed is, so you can go and investigate that. They are a lovely couple. The shepherdess actually has family here in the Yukon, so that's interesting to have those connections. The other yarn I would like to show is a marled yarn. This here, oh, it's drapey. Look at that. That's a good characteristic of some breeds of sheep that are long wools. So this comes from Fiber and Forge. So Beatriz is another lovely friend. I have knit a sweater out of a yarn that came from her sheep, Aubrey, which is also, I believe, a Shetland, maybe Shetland Gotland cross sheep. And it's lovely. It's Aran weight. So this here is a DK weight. This comes from the 2019 lambs. So they had lamb fleeces that they sent to a mill, and this was spun at Rosebud River Mills, where my yarn is currently getting spun. And it's a barnyard mix. A bunch of lamb fleeces that they sent to the mill, and they paired the white fleeces with the gray fleeces and marled them together. So I have 2 of these in my stash. It is, let's see here. So this one gives it in meters, so 265 meters per 100 grams. So it's a good DK weight. And they're suggesting a 3.75 to 4 millimeter needle. And it's 12 to 14 reps per inch. This is really lovely. Yeah. It has some really lovely sheen to it as well. I really love my yarns that have a nice sheen, like that glow from probably some Gotland. I know that this, I know that Beatriz's flock has some BFL and Gotland bloodline. So it could also be the BFL that we see in that sheen. Now, this has come from the Small Bird Workshop. And Catherine is a little shop on the Vancouver Island. And she actually goes to different farms, speaks with farms all over Canada. And so she sources fiber from single flocks and sends the fiber to a mill to be spun. So this came from two flocks actually. So she sourced them from individual flocks and then sent them to a mill called Wellington Fiber Mill, I think, and had it spun. So this is 60% Romney, 25% Targhee, 15% Kid Mohair, and it's a DK weight, 255 yards for 110 grams. It's a 3-ply. Sourced from BC, Ontario, and Saskatchewan, spun in Ontario. So the Small Bird Workshop. So yeah, a lovely yarn, a lovely, lovely yarn that I'm very happy to show you all. Because I started dyeing yarn a few years ago. I had no idea where to find yarn to dye, no idea. And I found some sources and I started dyeing yarn. And the more I kept researching where to find yarn, the more I discovered how much is imported for dyers here in Canada. And I just developed this passion to want to increase the wool industry in Canada. I'm one person, obviously I can't change or make a huge impact, but what I can do is what I can do, and if that has an impact in Canada, then I'm so happy. And if I could spread some more awareness to those of you who want to know more and find sources of where you can get Canadian wool, then I would love to point you in that direction. And yeah, so I'm so excited to be able to have my own yarn getting spun. It's at Rosebud River Mills in Alberta. It will be semi-worsted spun, so it'll be much like this that I spun. So yeah, I could talk your ears off about that, but I'm so excited, and I have other things in the pipeline to get spun, and yeah, so here we are. I wanted to also say thank you to everyone for all of your wonderful and kind comments and messages. It just really touches and warms my heart. The last time I was on, I spoke about how cold it was here. It got down to minus 48 Celsius, and that is not with a wind chill. And then it got to 2 degrees. I'm not joking, 2 degrees Celsius, and the snow that's been everywhere has started to melt. And as you can see right behind me right now, it's snowing. It's actually snowing quite a lot. It's pretty much a cloud of snow out there right now. And yeah, it was interesting weather. Anyways, so I loved hearing all your comments of where you're from. And I went from 7 people following me to over 500 people following me. And it just blows my mind to think that people want to come and join me in my crafting. And if you're here for whatever, I hope that you find yourself to feel at home and comfortable and welcome. Whatever you craft with, however you craft, that is a beautiful thing, and I hope that you can find a warm place here for you to sit and feel welcome, learn something, and I would love to be able to show some more content of some sorts. I just started a Slack channel for people wanting to progress in their spinning, even knitting, if that's, or whatever crafting. I called it Kindred Spinners and Crafters because I don't want to exclude anyone. I want everyone to feel welcome. So yeah, I thought that I would do a bit of a giveaway because I had so much warm welcome the last time. And I would love to give away something from my shop, or if you're a spinner, maybe something to spin. So if you would like to participate in this giveaway, I would love to hear why you love wool so much, why you love any kind of fiber so much. It doesn't have to be just wool. I know not everyone can wear wool. So why do you love wool or fiber so much? I want to know, because we all have our own different reasons. So for me, I love wool so much because there's a romance about it. That's the best way I can put it. There's texture, there's feel, there's that legacy, the history. When I hold Nora's fleece, though I've never actually seen her in person yet, I'm just overwhelmed with some nostalgia of this animal that lives and breathes for my pleasure, and I just find that so heartwarming. So I would love to know why you love wool and fiber so much, why you love your craft so much. Just answer below, and I will draw a winner at the next vlog, so podcast, whichever. So yeah, thank you so much again for joining me and hearing me ramble on and on. I hope you felt welcome. I hope that you have a wonderful weekend wherever you are, and that you get outside for fresh air, do something good for you, and remember to love well, be kind and understanding and patient, and I will see you next time, friends. So thanks again so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.